Hello and welcome to this episode of the GrowVC Everyone Funding Startups podcast. I'm your host Marcus, and today joined by Mario Healy, the founder and marketing director of InfoScroll. And InfoScroll is a new and improved Groupon, if you will, but I'll let Mario tell you all about the story around InfoScroll. So Mario, thank you a lot for joining us on our podcast today.
Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate it.
So I'm going to hand this over to you. Why don't you give a little words on your own background and a general introduction to what you're doing and who you are?
Marcus, I'm excited to join you with this interview. I had been an integration marketing expert from the very beginning, actually. I didn't even know what it was called back in those days. My wife calls me a workaholic, but I tell her, honey, I don't play golf and I don't drink. So this is what I do for fun. My first experience with integration marketing was I was hired by the company to sell T1 connections here locally in Orange County, California. And I quickly, because I'm very entrepreneurial, I created a web presence and I was selling T1 connections nationwide. In those days, depending on who you talk to, you could spend $300, $400, $500 per month for a T1 connection. And it was also the beginning of the voice over IP. And the company that I worked for was actually offering free long distance. So I was marketing free T1 connections, and I was selling T1 connections nationwide. I intuitively knew that in order to be successful, I had to come up with an irresistible offer, something that was an absolute no-brainer. So my second time around, I launched two companies simultaneously out here in California in the real estate industry. I understood that most people out here didn't buy homes with cash. They needed financing to buy homes. So I created an online mortgage brokering company and also an online real estate brokering company. My competitor, of course, they didn't know who I was, and I didn't know who they were at the time. They raised $30 million to launch their company, and I did it with $170. But I had an irresistible offer. I had a 99% closing ratio. As a matter of fact, the only time we had a no was when the wife, and it was always the wife, was emotionally attached to the local real estate agent. Otherwise, we normally close deals with clients all throughout the state, clients that we never even met. Now, this time around, basically, again, with integration marketing, I'm launching a portfolio of 10 companies, practically simultaneously. InfoScroll is only the spearhead company. First of all, I think now that we're talking about integration marketing, we need to backtrack it just a bit. I don't know if you're familiar with integration marketing. Are you, Marcus?
I was just actually going to ask you that if you could elaborate that on a little bit and also elaborate on how that fits into startups and what startups should be thinking about, because I know that you have lots of experience there.
Well, integration marketing is one of those things that I'm sure you're familiar with. I read a book by Mark Joyner. I think the book was published in 2009. I don't know. I'm not quite sure on the date. But in any case, it's kind of like gravity. It was around for a long time before Newton came along and named it. So I'll give you perhaps the best example of integration marketing. When Bill Gates signed that deal with IBM to provide the operating system for the computers, with one signature, in one day, Bill Gates basically changed our world, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that. Did he change it for the better or for the worse? That's a question that somebody might argue on.
I'm old enough to remember when I got my business degree. I have a business degree in accounting. Okay. I also have a minor in English. I know you can't really tell because of my accent. But in any case, I remember thinking, why would anybody want to go into computer science? Because when I went to school, we had those IBM mainframes. I don't know if you ever saw one of those IBM punch cards. And then, of course, Bill Gates came along and changed the world. Part of integration marketing is when you take your company's products or services and you integrate them with the products or services of other companies. That was the genius of that move, okay, of the Microsoft move, in that basically they with one signature, they took all of IBM's customers. So I guess you could say that I'm an integration marketing expert because this is what I have been doing all along, even before I knew what it was called. So my last two companies, I integrated the real estate company with the mortgage brokering company. And this time, I'm integrating the consumer-based company, which is InfoScroll, with a business company also. See, when I first got into the mortgage business back in the 80s, I learned a hard lesson. I was managing a company that had about 25 people working for me, and I was also using temp agencies because back in those days we didn't have computers like we know now, and everything was labor intensive, very labor intensive. So I was using temps only for photocopying and also for packaging packages that needed to be FedExed out. I went from being that busy to having to lay off everybody and shutting down the operation. So the lesson that I learned was that I didn't want to own a factory. My goal was to own a market. So when I decided to launch InfoScroll, I realized that in order for me to own the consumer market, I needed to go to the lowest common denominator. And Marcus, I don't know you, but I'm going to say that I know two things about you and your friends. I know that you enjoy going out to eat. Am I right?
Probably at some point.
And I also know that your friends also enjoy going out to eat. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all the same. So I realized that the lowest common denominator was food. We all enjoy going out to eat. And also, the other offer that we have with InfoScroll, I said to my wife, I said, honey, if you could buy a $25 grocery gift card for $17, will you buy it? She said, sure, of course. I said, okay, fine. If you buy one, how many will you buy? She said, well, I spend about $300 per month on groceries, so I will buy $300 worth. That is worth over $1 billion per month in revenue to one entity out here in the U.S. that has thousands of grocery stores nationwide. Every month, they're spending millions and millions of dollars in what's called loss leader advertising, basically, okay, just to get customers in the door. With those two offers, I knew that I could basically own the consumer market. But of course, you can think of it this way. If you own the consumer market, can you see how easy it would be for you to own the business market? Because obviously businesses need those consumers, right? So we're also launching a business consultant firm, which is Roycoop, and that is spelled R-O-I-C-O-O-P, and it's named after two concepts in business: return on investment, which is obviously something that every business must have, and also the idea that by working together, we can accomplish a lot more. So now we have the two companies, basically. One company based on the consumer market and another company based on the business market. And you see how easy it will be for you to launch multiple companies if you own a media company that has millions of consumers, not only here in the U.S. but worldwide. Wouldn't it be really easy to introduce to those consumers new products and new services? All we have to do is take a look at what people might want or need and help them get it. And if we do a good job at that, we get what we want. And the key word is might, because obviously people don't even know what it is that they want. Okay? So with Groupon is, as you probably already know, is the fastest growing company in history. Groupon went from 0 to 13 million users in 26 months by selling discounted gift certificates. As a matter of fact, they spent $3 million advertising on the Super Bowl, telling consumers that they could go to Groupon.com and pay $15 for a $30 restaurant gift certificate. Okay? What's unique at InfoScroll is that we offer free restaurant gift certificates, no credit card needed. By the way, that is a trademarked offer. Those words basically tell the consumer everything they need to know. They know what it is that we're offering, restaurant gift certificates, how much they are, they're free, and why they should trust us. No credit card needed. So I guess they're really free. Now, with Groupon, they have raised $1.14 billion so far. And, of course, like I said, it's the fastest growing company in history because they spent a big chunk of that money in advertising. Groupon is a viral marketing company because it has a viral component in that in order for the consumer to be able to take advantage of any particular offer, they have to introduce that offer to all their friends because at least 200 people, for example, must buy that offer or no one gets it. Now, just recently in the news out here, there was someone who, an investor, who